Hello! It's been a hot minute since we've revisited this sort of study session series, this cozy sketchy sessions. Yeah, but it is a series that I did say I intended to continue, so here we are. So, as the title of this video suggests, today we'll be doing leg studies. I know that recently the sort of cozy sketch factor in this series has sort of not been very present, so I kind of wanted to bring it back a bit with this video and start off in my sketchbook. Just start off warming up and sort of outlining exactly what I wanted to practice when it came to drawing the leg. Just to note, the initial footage from this video is gonna be in like real time while I'm sketching. Both because, well, I think it would be interesting to see, and also because the camera gets a bit shaky at times, which is out of my control. So just for the ease of your viewing. You can skip ahead if you like, I'll have timestamps down below. Also, these are sort of like my initial sketches, my initial introduction to properly studying the legs and everything. So this isn't the be-all end-all. This isn't like, these are my set results. I'll be studying like in the background as well, so you know, I improve over time, and I think you should do the same. Don't expect to have everything right from the first session, because it just is not going to happen. Art is a journey and it is a long process. I recently came across this photo on Pinterest and thought, why not? This looks like a good starting point, let's give it a shot. I find that when studying specifically anatomy, it's really good to sort of try different angles to see if you find something that works for you. And because I'm generally really shape oriented, I wanted to try something like this, where I'm splitting the leg up into different shapes, different organic looking shapes even, and sort of deconstructing and reconstructing it again, rather than doing it layer by layer, bone by bone, muscle by muscle. As I've said in a previous video, it's a little bit more difficult for me to do it that way. However, I think there is merit to it, and I do think that I'll get to it at some point. But I thought I'd like to take the approach that's more comfortable and more easy for me to do first before I tackle other ways of doing it. This way I know that my more comfortable route works for me or doesn't. The great thing about art is that you don't have to learn it in a certain way, you don't have to do it in a specific way or method. You can just try out different avenues of getting to it and find out which one works for you. And I'm definitely taking full advantage of that, because I definitely do think I work in shapes a lot more than I do in sort of technical construction, I suppose. And I think a lot of artists are the same or similar, to be honest, because if you look at the world around you, it's all sort of just comprised of shapes that people put together, and it makes it more and more complex. So this method of sort of breaking it down and making it more simple, I think it really works. At least from my first impressions. I need to practice this sort of thing more long term to get more consistent results with it, but from first impressions and in theory, I think it works really well. At the very least, it isn't hard for me to comprehend or understand. It's just something that I can do. And something I did do on the page was rotate the shapes and the objects to try and help myself visualize what they look like in a 3D space, because I think my issue is definitely I find it hard to envision a shape in a 3D setting, and everything sort of ends up becoming more flat or 2D. And that's due to my own lack of understanding. I know it's not that bad. I think I do have quite believable drawings at times, but I don't really understand them, if you get what I mean. So the purpose of me rotating the shapes, doing front facing, side view, and the back view is so that I ingrain it in myself what these objects look like when I turn them around. I also plan to do something similar when I move on to the next thing that I'm going to study as well, because ultimately all of these complex forms are all comprised of these simple shapes, So if I get down rotating simple shapes really, really well, that just means everything else after is super easy, in theory. And I mean, I guess that's the point of practicing your fundamentals. If you get the bare basics down really, really well and have a really good foundation, everything that lies on top of that, you just reach it easier. And I feel like you don't have to struggle as hard. I can't say for 100% certainty though, because I haven't completed going down this path yet, and I don't think anyone else will. But obviously more artists have more experience doing this kind of thing than me. So yeah. I wanted to film in this location specifically because the sun was just hitting the desk just right, and I thought, well, if I'm gonna do a sketchbook session, I might as well make it a little bit more aesthetic. But I don't know if it helps or not. I mean, compared to my other sketchbook sessions, please let me know which you prefer, this kind of lighting or the other one. And I know that this one, the lighting might be a little bit unclear, just because the light is so bright, it casts darker shadows, which is another aspect of fundamentals that I'll get into at some point. But yeah, I think that's the sort of double-edged sword. It's beautiful, it's pretty, but the shadows that it casts are really dark, so anything that my hand covers, it's over. You can only see the top half of the page, really. But yeah, this was intended to just be like a warm-up for me, just to sort of get in my head what kind of thing that I wanted to do for this study and how I wanted to deconstruct things and then put them back together. I also made a point of using a ballpoint pen because of something that I mentioned in a previous video. It's where I want to keep my lines on the page very permanent. So I don't have room to rub out or redo my lines, and I have to commit to what I'm drawing, as well as I have to be very intentional of what I'm drawing. So this works to both make sure I don't keep rubbing out and to make sure that I'm thinking about my lines and every line is intentional. I think when you're studying and when you're drawing something important, making sure that your lines and everything you put down is intentional is really important, because it saves you a lot of time and it saves you sort of looking back and being like, huh, why did I do that? Or what happened here? How did I do that? Because you'll remember and you'll know. And it might also help you from studying for hours and hours on end, because instead of mindless studying, you're studying with intention. So it ends up as maybe you don't need to do as much. Also to note here, when I say study, it's different from practice. Study, I think, comes down to breaking down how you want to practice in the future, or breaking down the method in which you go about learning something. Whereas practice, it's sort of, you've learned it, or you've learned enough of it where you can actually apply it to something else or what you're doing already. So, for example, what I'm doing right now are studies. Well, I classify them as studies. And if I were going to apply them in practice, I'd look at a different reference and I'd try to break it down in the same way. Or I'd try to sort of draw the leg whole, maybe without all of that breaking down, but keeping that breakdown in mind. Hello again. As you can see, I switched over to digital, and I still have that reference image up again so that I can keep practicing and studying. And like I said, the sketchbook was more of a warm-up, and now I'm moving on to my main medium, which is digital. And as you can see, a cute new little asset, it's me in the corner drawing. I just thought it would be fun to make one of those, so I did. But I'll talk more about it a little later. For now, I'm continuing where I left off with the studies, flipping every so often only to realize that I have a real bias to draw things leaning to the left. So I'm pretty sure I corrected that at some point. And yeah, I'm just trying to get into my head the previous sort of method that I just practiced on the sketchbook, and trying to break things down again and then putting them back together. This time though, instead of just doing the thighs, I worked on the calves as well, because I didn't do that in my sketchbook. And then I sort of tried to put them in a little more perspective, from like a top-down view and a looking up kind of view, as well as obviously side, back view, and sort of a view from the top-ish. And there is a lack of feet here because I just didn't study it that well. I did draw a few on the side just to try and make things look less chopped up, I guess. But I will do dedicated studies of those and shoes as well in the future too. I also like to write sort of little tiny notes next to it, just to sort of solidify what I've been thinking of or what I'm trying to do, so it's clear to me when I look back at it again. But I don't do this all the time, and I don't always look back, so it's better for me not to clutter up, just enough so that I understand what I'm doing in the moment. Now, with that study out of the way, I've moved on to the other side of the canvas. Hello. And I started doing those studies again, and then I also thought I wanted to try drawing the legs normally while keeping this in mind. And I also thought, what if I did that with drawing a full figure? What if I practiced by drawing someone standing at their full length? And originally this wasn't going to be anything, I was just drawing for the sake of drawing with nothing in mind. But then my ideas kept flowing and I created a design. A design for a current visual novel that I'm playing actually. It's called Obscura. And it's 18 plus, so minors do not interact, but it's been really good so far and I really love the aesthetic. And I don't know how me practicing got to this point, but I ended up creating a design for a new main character that I'm gonna use. Well, I've already used her, but I didn't give her an appearance before. And I'm going to use her for oleander's fruit specifically. So the little extra practice sort of turned into fun sketches. And that's what I really like about practicing, especially with characters. You can literally just turn it into whatever you want with it. You can make characters, you can sketch whatever you like, you can just have fun with it. It can go from a serious, dedicated sketch to you actually making a character sheet of a main character that you want in a game that you're playing. Anyway, now you're watching my thumbnail speed paint, as I give you all of those every video. And now, with that studying out of the way, I think it's appropriate to start yapping on about my little chibi in the bottom right corner right here. I had the idea that I really wanted to create like a little drawing me in the bottom corner of a video so that you can see me drawing along, or you know that I'm there. Of course you know that I'm there, but you know, it gives more presence. And with this, I also sort of figured out the bare basics of using CSP's animation tool to create a looping GIF, so I can put it over any videos that I make and loop it over and over again, so I can perpetually draw, which I think was very much worth learning. I also very much enjoyed making this thumbnail. Admittedly, I wasn't sure at first which direction I wanted to go with it, because I wanted to show off legs without it being, well, too show-offy. And I thought of this little sketch, and I think I cooked with this one. I think my brain really cooked with this one. It's bright and fun enough for Ika, and I think it showcases what I wanted to do, at least enough, you know? And I also sort of struggled with the colors a bit, but I worked it out in the end. And that's the lovely thumbnail that you see when you click on this video. I know this video is like 20 minutes or more long, but it always feels so short whenever I'm recording myself speaking. It's like, oh wait, it's nearing the end already? And I feel like I have both so much to say and so little at times, so it's hard to sort of pace myself to match the video. But thank you so much for watching. Sadly no cat clip today, but I'll have one next video, I hope. Like I said, I'm rationing them out, so I don't give out too much at a time. And with that, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!